Some years ago, I had the most terrible experience in my life. My father died. I was extremely attached to my father, and also he is the man that I have most admired in my whole life. He was a person who was always looking for the way to improve himself as a person. And I think that's the character trait that I am trying to acquire every day of my life. When he died, my whole world was completely devastated. I felt really bad. I have always looked for psychology for an answer, and this time was no different. I started reading and I bumped into a great new trend in psychology, which is psychology as a preventive science and not as a healer. So the first thing that I started reading was a book by Dr. Seligman, which is called Authentic Happiness. In this book, he explains how important it is to be able to learn how to cope with bad situations in your life before you are living through these terrible situations. He has a series of steps which you have to take before you start, so you have to take in order to be ready to cope with these situations. So I started, and I had this method, and I started studying about it. The next really great book that I read was a book by Shawn Achor. Shawn Achor's book is called Happiness Advantage. This book is about how you can learn to be happy, how you can learn to be a more positive and more creative person. So this is also a method that I thought it was very, very, very positive, and it was very useful for me. The other great researcher that I encountered was Dr. Goleman. Dr. Goleman talks about emotional and social intelligence. The emotional intelligence is defined as the way in which you can deal with your feelings, how good you are when you are coping with different kinds of situations, good or bad. And he also talks about the social intelligence, which is the way that you can relate with other people. And I think that also the way in which you relate with yourself. The greatest researcher that I have encountered later is Dr. Boyatzis. Dr. Boyatzis has done a lot of research, and he has come to the conclusion that you have to be an inspirational leader in order to be a great person. And he explains you how to be an inspirational leadership. Basically, Dr. Boyatzis has a course on Coursera, so I would highly recommend you to go and take this course because it's fantastic. So now let me explain a little bit about these theories, because I think that after reading several researches about these from these great people, I have reached a conclusion that mostly they talk about the same thing. First of all, there is not only one intelligence. There was a time when we thought that we only had the cognitive intelligence. Now, ever since Gardner, we have realized that we have several intelligences. And cognitive intelligence is just a very small part of all the skills that we have. We have an emotional intelligence, we have a social intelligence. Nowadays they are talking about a moral intelligence, and we have obviously our cognitive intelligence, and we have even a physical intelligence. That's why it's important to be fit, because our body can also act intelligently. So these great researchers want to teach you how to be a successful man or woman. Because you can be a person that has many doctor's degree, many master's degree, specializations to be the great master in your field. But if you are not able to control your emotions and to relate with people, you are never going to be successful. You are going to have problems in your work, you're going to have problems in your emotional relationships with your husband or your wife. You're going to have problems with your children. You're not going to have friends. So you're going to be a person that is completely unsuccessful. In order to be successful, you have to be able to balance all your intelligence and to excel in each one of them. Now this sounds really, really, really difficult and challenging, but it's not, because the Happiness Advantage, for example, Shawn Achor proposes 7 principles. Goleman proposes also 5 or 6 steps. Boyatzis has 5 characteristics. So in average, we could say that there are 5 important things to do to be able to be happy. First of all, and I think it's one of the most important, is to have a meaningful life. That means to be able to feel that your life is good for something. You have to be aware of your own self and of your surroundings. You have to be able to empathize with other people and with your own feelings too. You have to be able to listen to others and to agree or disagree, but without judging. So that means you cannot be judgmental. So as you can see, there are very few things that you can do in order to be happy and in order to learn to cope with these terrible experiences like the one that I had with the death of my dear father. So it's not a matter of reading 1,000 books like I did. Well, not 1,000, but I read around. I don't know, I read a lot. But I read many books and articles from these fantastic researchers. But you don't really have to do it. I would recommend from Seligman, Authentic Happiness. Shawn Achor, The Happiness Advantage. From Goleman, Emotional and Social Intelligence. And Boyatzis has a lot of research articles that you can find and that you can read. Or you could enroll on Coursera in Inspirational Leadership. So I hope that you have learned a little bit, and I hope that I have been able to transmit this passion that I feel for the psychology and for how to help people to live happily, like me. Thank you very much.